StockMate is an Android tablet-based app that helps graziers manage livestock, mobs or lots, and individual animals. It integrates with RFID readers and weigh scales and can synchronise data with the cloud-based management console when internet service is available. It works in multi-property contexts with multiple tablets and has multi-level user management. StockMate calculates average daily gain, weight and treatment history and records paddock, mob and individual animal movements. It provides property data at a glance, including maps, stock numbers and distributions. It includes powerful reporting and export features, and data can be exported directly into StockMate. The StockMate website can be accessed at stockmate.online. Select Sign In, enter the registered email address and password, and log in. Once you are logged in, you can enter the current database setup information relating to your business, including property, paddock, and mob names. A StockMate database may consist of a number of properties, and each property may consist of a number of paddocks. In order to set up a property, select Settings from the menu to the left of the screen, then choose Property Lists, Properties, and Add Record. Create a code that reflects the property name. This will later be used by StockMate to automatically generate codes for different arrival or handling sessions. In this instance, we've taken the first two letters of the property name. Now you can fill in the property details fields. Leave land area empty for the moment, as this will be automatically calculated when your property is mapped out. Scroll down to map the property. To zoom in or out of the property location, you can either scroll with your mouse or use the plus/minus buttons. Right-click the mouse to create a property boundary marker. Continue adding property boundary markers in either a clockwise or anti-clockwise direction. You can move existing markers by left-clicking on the marker, holding the left button down and using the mouse to move the marker to the correct location on the map. Double-click a marker to remove it. Note that the land area has automatically populated following the mapping process. You can select your preferred unit of measure. When your property boundary is mapped correctly, select Save Changes. If you have more than one property, you can follow these steps to set up each property. To set up paddocks within your property, select Settings, Property Lists, Paddocks, select the required property, and Add Record. Enter your paddock details below, creating a code that reflects the paddock name. Again, the land area will be automatically calculated once the paddock has been mapped. Scroll down to mark the boundaries of the paddock within the property on the map. As in setting up a property, you can zoom either by scrolling or using the plus and minus buttons on the map. Click and drag to move around the screen. Right-click to place property markers, and left-click and drag to move markers once they have been placed. Double-click a marker to remove it. When you have finished setting up the paddock, select Save Changes. Repeat this process to set up each paddock on each of your properties. Origins and destinations are external locations. They can be used to indicate where animals are coming from or where they're going to. These may include abattoirs, localities, sale yards, feedlots, and other properties. Select Settings, Property Lists, Origins and Destinations, and Add Record. Enter the location details into the available fields. Save changes and repeat the process for each of your origins and destinations. StockMate enables you to set up a variety of livestock lists to streamline animal handling processes and maximise reporting capabilities. SANs can be used as an additional animal identifier for groups of animals. They're particularly useful when data from StockMate is to be passed on to eLynx's Stockaid product for feedlots. The use of SANs is not mandatory. To set up SANs, select Settings, Livestock Lists, SANs, and Add Record. Enter the SAN details fields. Select Save Changes. Mobs or lots can be any grouping of livestock on your properties. Mob names can be anything you like. Some customers choose to link mob names to year of birth, breed and gender. For example, 2017 Hereford heifers. To create a new mob, select Settings, Livestock Lists, Mobs and Add Record. Enter the relevant mob details. When you're finished, select Save Changes. Cattle types are categories of cattle purchased. These might include categories such as domestic, export, long-fed, pregnant, cull cows, or replacement heifers. As with mob names, cattle type is a subjective description that works for you. Set up cattle types which will be useful to you in drafting cattle or creating reports down the track. Select Settings, Livestock Lists, Cattle Types, and Add Record. Enter the cattle type details and save changes. StockMate has lists of breeds, genders, and dentition pre-populated and ready for use. To view the pre-populated lists, navigate to Settings, Livestock Lists, and Breeds. To add a breed to the list, select Add Record, enter the fields, and save changes. This process is the same for accessing and adding either genders or dentition. The lists of forage types and forage levels have also been pre-populated. To view the pre-populated lists, navigate to Settings, Forage Lists, and Forage Types. To add to the list, select Add Record, enter the fields, and save changes. To add supplement types, select Settings, Forage Lists, Supplement Types, and Add Record. The same approach is used for supplements as for adding forage types, except that now you will also need to select the appropriate unit of measure. You can access the treatment lists through Settings, Treatment Lists, Treatment Items. Many treatment items have been pre-populated. To edit an existing treatment item, select the record, edit as required, and save changes. To add to the list, select Add Record, enter treatment item details, and save changes. To access the list of ailments, select Settings, Treatment Lists, and Ailments. Many ailments have been pre-populated. To edit an existing ailment, select the record, edit as required, and save changes. To add to the list, select Add Record, enter ailment details, and save changes. You can view the unit lists by selecting Settings and Units. Units have been pre-populated and cannot be edited, though for each unit type, a default can be selected if desired. Select the relevant attribute from the drop-down list to view units of measure and click on the unit you want to set as the default unit for that attribute. External services such as AutoMed and NLIS can be activated if desired. Select Settings, External Services, select your desired service and press Inactive such that the button changes to read Active. This will then allow you to edit the relevant properties, enter your credentials for that service, and select Save. User management allows you to manage a range of contacts, such as vendors, buyers, and owners. These fields will be referenced when you run arrival and exit sessions. It also includes property staff and property management areas. To set up and manage your contacts, select Settings, User Management, Manage Contacts, and Add Record. Fill in the contact details and save changes. Then scroll down to select the contact groups. You can mark the contact as one or more of the available fields. A contact may, for example, be both a vendor and a buyer. Select Save Changes again and close the window. Management areas can be used to define areas of the business under different management, for example, Queensland and Western Australia, or perhaps East and West, or Taylor and Smith. They also can be tied to access privileges for different users. Select Settings, User Management, Management Areas, and Add Record. Enter the management area details and select the properties managed within that area, then Save Changes. Repeat the process for each management area. The Manage Staff function is where you, if you're an administrator, set up access for all staff who will be using StockMate. Select Settings, User Management, Manage Staff, and Add Record. Enter the user details fields. The specified role determines the level of StockMate access the user is granted. Administrator is at the top of the hierarchy, followed by Area Manager, then Operator. Users cannot change their role or anyone else's role to a higher role than their own. Select Save Changes. Scroll down to select the management area or areas to which this user is permitted access. New users will be sent a verification email to activate their StockMate account. It is possible to set up multiple session templates on the website, so these are available as presets for use on the tablet during a scan session. Select Settings, Session Templates, and New Template. Enter the session name, session type and subtype, and save changes. Then you can nominate the parameters you want to include in your session. When you check a parameter as Visible, the field will show up within the tablet scan session screen. You may or may not choose to set a default for the visible parameters. A default means that field will automatically populate with a certain option in the scan session to save time. However, you can modify this for individual animals within the scan session. If a preset list is selected, only the selected fields will be available during the session. For instance, if you have a mix of Angus and Angus cross animals in a session, but will not have any other breeds, you would set the presets to include only Angus and Angus cross breeds to simplify the process. If no preset list is defined, all values will be available in the pertinent field. The first elements you specify are the animal details. Once you have nominated the options you want visible in the scan session, select Save before continuing down. StockMate has some really nifty sort rules for gates. You set up the number of gates you will require in the session for moving cattle and specify which gate each animal needs to go to be sorted into specific paddocks. Select Add to set up gates. I might want, for example, animals to be drafted between 3 different paddocks, depending on their attributes, so I would set up 3 different gates. Then Save Changes. After you have specified gates, you can set up your draft rules. Select Add to set up various draft rules, which will calculate the destination of animals in the session based on either single or multiple parameters of attributes, such as weight, breed, gender, mob, withholding period, and European slaughter interval. It's important to note that if an animal meets the criteria for more than one draft rule, then the animal will be assigned to the gate for the first sequence rule for which it qualifies. For example, if you were drafting animals based on weight and had a draft rule for animals heavier than 450 kilograms and a rule for animals heavier than 400 kilograms, then an animal that weighed 460 kilograms would qualify for both fields. If you had the lower weight option listed first in the draft rules, the animal would go into the lower weight group, even though it met the criteria for the heavier group. Therefore, always put heavier weights first in the draft rules. There must always be an else rule set up for animals who, for any reason, do not meet the specified drafting criteria. When you have finished setting up the draft rules, scroll back to the top of the page and click on the back arrow next to the page heading to return to Session Setup. That completes your StockMate web setup. Many of these procedures can also be carried out on your Android tablet using the StockMate app. Setup processes using the tablet will be covered in a separate tutorial.